For millions of Christians in Nigeria and beyond, Osinachi Nwachukwu became one of the most recognizable names in African gospel music. Her breakout performance in the hit song Ekuweme brought her global recognition and cemented her status in the music industry. However, behind the scenes, Osinachi was fighting a private battle that would ultimately claim her life. Her tragic death on April 8, 2022, shocked the nation and uncovered a harrowing story of prolonged domestic abuse that sparked public outrage and introspection about the role of religion and society in confronting abuse. Osinachi Nwachuku was born on November 12, 1979, into a family of 7 children. From a young age, she stood out for her powerful voice and would often sing in local church choirs. Over time, she developed a unique style that blended traditional Igbo worship with contemporary gospel music. She regularly performed at Christian events and was sometimes joined by her twin sister, gospel musician Amarachi Grace Eze. Sometime in her adult life, Osinachi attended a Christian event where she met Peter Nwachukwu. Peter, who is from Newi in Anambra State, reportedly saw her ministering and was immediately drawn to her. Their attraction was mutual and the couple got married in 2008. They had 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl, and lived together in Abuja. At the time, Peter was a pastor, though it wasn't clear if he had any other form of employment. Meanwhile, Osinachi's music career was beginning to gain traction. In 2019, she rose to national prominence when she featured on Pastor Prosper Ochinma's song, Ekuweme. The song went viral and as of the time of this recording, has over 138 million views on YouTube. That song established her as a leading voice in Nigerian gospel music. She went on to work with several other gospel artists and church leaders. Her songs became well-known worship anthems both in Nigeria and abroad. Osinachi also served as a lead singer at Dunamis International Gospel Center in Abuja, regularly performing in front of their large congregation. On April 8, 2022, fans were shocked when it was reported that the widely beloved musician had passed away at a hospital in Abuja. Osinachi Nwachukwu was 42 years old and had left behind 4 children aged between 12 and 7. Initial social media reports claimed that she had died of throat cancer, but within days, a different narrative began to surface. Friends and family took to social media alleging that Osinachi had died from injuries sustained from domestic abuse caused by her husband, Peter Nwachukwu. Osinachi's elder sister, Favor, alleged that Peter had kicked her sister in the chest, causing internal bleeding. According to Favor, the trauma led to blood building up in Osinachi's chest, which ultimately resulted in her death. Favor also revealed that Peter never called the family when Osinachi's health took a turn, and that they only found out she was hospitalized through a friend. He also barred Osinachi's twin sister from visiting her in hospital and ignored repeated calls from her family. Hours later, at around 8 p.m., Peter called Osinachi's brother and casually told him that his sister had died. Peter also called his mother-in-law, who accused him of finally fulfilling his threat to kill Osinachi. Shortly afterwards, Peter switched off his phone. Friends and family revealed that Osinachi had endured years of physical abuse at the hands of her violent and controlling husband. Her sister Favor also claimed that Peter isolated Osinachi from her family. She was not allowed to visit their home freely. The only exception was in 2017 when she briefly attended their father's funeral, and even then, Peter slapped Osinachi in public. After that incident, he reportedly denied his mother-in-law access to their house. In the months leading up to her death, Favor urged her sister to leave the abusive marriage. However, Osinachi refused, believing divorce was a sin. Despite Favor's attempts to explain that separation for safety wasn't the same as divorce, Osinachi remained hopeful, saying, quote, "God will change him. It's just a matter of time." Peter, who had assumed the role of her manager, had taken full control of Osinachi's finances. He handled her bookings and decided who she could work with. Friends and fellow gospel musicians later said that he often fought with event organizers over money. Osinachi, on the other hand, was always soft-spoken, rarely demanding, and never confrontational. Favor said Osinachi had no personal bank account because Peter had access to her bank cards. He took all her earnings and only gave her what he deemed necessary. Osinachi lived modestly. She was isolated from her family and felt like a prisoner in her own home. After her death, her children were left in Peter's custody. Their grandmother, overwhelmed with grief and fear, was reluctant to visit them. The family worried that Peter, who had exerted control over Osinachi for years, might continue to cause harm even after her passing. The couple's 4 children told police that their mother had suffered constant violence at the hands of their father, who they said had sworn them to secrecy. On 11th April 2022, Peter Nwachukwu was arrested by police and charged with 23 counts bordering on domestic violence and culpable homicide. He was also charged with emotional, verbal, and psychological abuse, cruelty to children, spousal battery, and criminal intimidation of children. Peter denied any wrongdoing and continued to attribute his wife's death to an illness.
Not get the whole world because I've suffered a lot. Please. I've suffered. I abandoned. What killed my wife is lungs, cancer of the lungs, not thinking my wife. I didn't kill my wife. Cancer of the lungs is what killed my wife. Osinachi Nwachuku. So I'm suffering for what I didn't pass through. What I don't know.
Peter Nwachukwu was officially arraigned on June 3, 2022. The prosecution came prepared, tendering 25 documents as exhibits and called a total of 17 witnesses, including 2 of the couple's children. A key part of Peter's defense referenced Osinachi's autopsy results, which did not confirm any physical signs of violence. The report detailed the causes of death as a serious buildup of fluid in the sac around the heart, tumor deposits in the heart, lungs, and kidneys, an enlarged heart and spleen, and sepsis, which is a dangerous blood infection caused by bacteria. Peter Nwachukwu took the stand in his own defense, denying all accusations of abuse. He told the court that he couldn't have abused his wife because he paid for her university fees in 2007 and supported her musical dreams. Peter stated that their marriage was peaceful and that any tensions primarily stemmed from disputes with Osinachi's family over financial matters. He also alleged that Osinachi's twin sister was particularly antagonistic towards him and accused him of abuse due to their disagreements. In an attempt to counter the prosecution's narrative, Peter presented several video recordings showing him and Osinachi celebrating birthdays, praying together, and happily engaging in family activities. However, during cross-examination, Peter failed to provide any proof to support his claims of sponsoring her education. Osinachi's sister, Favor, was among the prosecution witnesses. She testified that her sister was treated like an animal. According to her, Peter beat Osinachi without restraint, never made her happy, and kept her isolated from her own family and had control of her money. She recalled a particular time where Osinachi was told that she had been paid 2 million naira for a performance, but the payment was made directly into Peter's account. She added that he did not give his wife any pocket money and he simply told her when and where to show up. She said the control was so bad that when their father was critically ill and needed treatment in Abuja, Peter refused to help and their father died. On their way to the burial, Osinachi complained about Peter's rough driving and he slapped her. Favor also spoke about the hunger Osinachi endured, saying that she developed an ulcer from starvation because Peter didn't provide. She claimed that Osinachi was the breadwinner of the family and owned the house they lived in. However, Peter once threw her out in the rain with their baby. When asked during cross-examination how she knew all this information while living in Enugu, Favor said that Osinachi told her everything over the phone. The defense tried to imply that the family was only interested in Osinachi's finances. Favor admitted that they expected to benefit from their sister, but that didn't change the facts. She also revealed that Peter prevented Osinachi's twin sister and their brother, who were present at the hospital, from asking the doctors what caused her death. Adetunji Moses, who worked as Osinachi's PA and keyboardist from 2018 to 2021, said that Peter was both verbally and physically abused. During rehearsals, Peter would call Osinachi useless, lazy, and indolent. Moses said that Peter would block any attempts Osinachi's family made of trying to see her. He recalled a time when they were supposed to travel to Zimbabwe for an event. However, Peter got into a fight with Osinachi's mother, which caused them to miss their flight. On the way back from the airport, Peter verbally assaulted Osinachi, claiming her family was blocking their blessings. He testified to another incident in Lagos where Peter instructed Moses not to let Osinachi's twin sister share the stage with her. At a different event, a check was issued in Osinachi's name. However, Peter followed her to the bank and made her transfer the money into his account. When cross-examined, Moses confirmed that Osinachi often complained about ulcer pains. The defense claimed that Moses was bitter about being denied an increase in salary, but he denied the allegations, stating that Peter's rage is what forced him to quit. Blessing Iyamabe, Osinachi's hairdresser, also testified in court. She recounted witnessing several incidents of abuse. In 2013, she saw Peter slap Osinachi after she sent their son to give him her car keys instead of doing it herself. In another instance, in 2018, he slapped Osinachi at the salon because she hadn't asked for his permission to be there. Blessing said that the fear of Peter was so intense that she once had to style Osinachi's daughter's hair secretly at her school, and on another occasion in a toilet at a shopping mall, just to avoid confrontation. She admitted under cross-examination that she had advised Osinachi to leave the marriage. When asked if she knew what caused Osinachi's death, she said she was told it was throat cancer, but the patterns of abuse painted a much more disturbing picture. Due to the sensitivity of the testimonies from Osinachi's children, the judge barred journalists from covering that portion of the trial, stating that protecting the children was paramount. Ultimately, Peter Nwachukwu was found guilty of culpable homicide. Shortly before sentencing, Peter's lawyer pleaded for leniency in court. On 28 April 2025, 56-year-old Peter Nwachukwu was sentenced to death by hanging for the murder of his wife, Osinachi Nwachukwu. It remains uncertain whether the sentence will be carried out, as executions are rarely enforced in Nigeria. However, Peter retains the right to appeal. The court's ruling is being seen as a milestone in Nigeria's fight against domestic violence. It has been widely praised for sending a clear message that abuse will be met with serious consequences. The case reignited public conversations about the need for stronger protections for victims and increased awareness of the warning signs of abuse. Osinachi's death deeply impacted Nigeria's Christian community, prompting reflection on how religious and cultural attitudes toward marriage, divorce, and gender roles may discourage victims from speaking out or leaving abusive situations. In response, many Nigerians, including fellow Christians, have called on religious leaders to stop encouraging silence or endurance in the face of violence within the home. Following her death, Dunamis International Gospel Center, where Osinachi served, faced intense public criticism. Many Nigerians accused the church of failing to recognize or act on signs of abuse. The church claimed it was unaware of the situation. But Favor said that Osinachi had once attempted to confide in a pastor without receiving any follow-up support. The church later shared a short video with the BBC that said it taught its congregation that it is better to be single and alive than to die in an abusive marriage. Osinachi was buried on June 15, 2022, in her home village in Abia State. Her funeral was attended by thousands, and tributes poured in from fans, colleagues, and Christian leaders across the country. She was described as a beautiful soul with a powerful, angelic voice that blessed millions. Osinachi's voice lives on in her songs and her fans. Her death started a national conversation on domestic violence, faith, and justice. But her life reminds us of the dangers of suffering in silence. She was a gifted woman, trapped in a cycle of control and isolation, and was held back by societal and religious pressures. May her soul rest in peace. Thank you so much for listening and watching until the end. I know this was a bit of a heavy one, but as always, I would like to know your thoughts on this case, so feel free to comment. And I'd also like to thank all 8,497 of you for subscribing and interacting with my channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Faith Njoroge, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.